Ah yes, there it is. That familiar music, that classic Rumble music. Takes us way back, doesn't it? Well, way back to last night was the Royal Rumble. This is the Royal Ramble. I am your host, Blaine the Brain, and yes, we are officially on the road to WrestleMania. So how about that Rumble? Did it exceed your expectations? Were you happy with the results? Did any of your predictions come true? Well, I'm here to talk about it. Yes, I'll be recapping the whole Rumble event and talking all about possible directions for WrestleMania. At the end of the show, we also have the latest personality profile segment, so stay tuned. But right now, let's get ready to rumble. And I don't mean a terrible 2000s David Arquette movie, although he was probably the one celebrity that didn't show up tonight. Let's get right into it then. Last night's event came to us from the Dome at America Center in St. Louis. It started off hot with a huge match for the Universal Championship between defending champion Roman Reigns and his former Shield partner Seth Rollins. In fact, Rollins actually came out to the old Shield entrance music, which was the one entrance theme I actually recognized tonight, complete with the crowd entrance and even the Shield SWAT gear the team used to wear, which was pretty cool. I was not expecting it, especially after Friday's face-to-face promo, but Seth actually got a really good babyface reaction last night, and this crowd was hot throughout the show, except for parts of the main event, which I'll get to a little later. For what it's worth, I think Seth is great. I've been a fan of his ever since his initial singles run after turning on the Shield, and I think he's a fantastic heel, although he didn't play the part tonight. I love that suit gimmick combined with his maniacal laugh, and he's always been a great in-ring performer, so I never really understood all the hate he's been getting over the years. But apparently this St. Louis crowd agrees with me. They were very high on Seth, it seemed. The first big spot of the match was a powerbomb by Seth to Roman through the announce table, which Cole for some reason called a Shield powerbomb. I mean, you'd think a guy who's been doing this job for 25 years would know the difference between a Shield bomb and a regular bomb, but apparently not. Seth was great in this match, playing cat and mouse type mind games throughout. He hit a buckle bomb later on and followed with a stomp for a near fall. At some point in the match, Roman started getting a shiner over his left eye. I'm not sure at what point that occurred, but it started to swell about midway through. Roman responded with a Superman punch out of nowhere and then a spear on the floor. He attempted another spear in the ring but was caught mid-move with a pedigree, which looked great, but only earned Seth a near fall. I believe that was the same move that Seth beat Roman with the last time they fought for a singles title. Roman hit a spear again in the ring, and then the finish came when Seth extended his fist out, trying to get Roman to give him a fist bump like the Shield used to do, while laughing maniacally again, and then Roman pulled Seth into a guillotine choke. Seth did end up reaching the ropes, but Roman refused to break the hold, resulting in a DQ finish. It was a pretty good match up until that point, so I'm not sure why they opted to go with that finish, as it may have dropped it down a rating. Roman held on to the move until Seth eventually passed out. When Seth regained consciousness and got back to his feet, Roman dropped him again with a chair shot to the back, so they clearly must have big plans for Seth as a babyface coming out of this, as Roman continued to attack Seth with repeated chair shots after the match. The Women's Rumble match was next, so I'll try my best to recap everything here. So Sasha Banks starts the match off as number one. Firstly, I should mention that Byron Saxton was dressed as the man with the yellow hat from Curious George, and that wouldn't be the only cartoon-inspired outfit of the night. Sasha came out dressed as Sailor Moon attire. And then number two came out, and in the first of many surprises of the night, it was none other than Melina. I had not seen Melina compete since the NWA Empower event of last year, and I actually haven't watched an NWA show since. But talk about opening the forbidden door. I guess that concept is no longer exclusive to AEW. But the nostalgia act didn't last long, as Melina was almost immediately dumped out by Sasha, who then proceeded to mock her by doing the splits. I guess someone must have forgotten to remind Sasha that she's a babyface. Tamina was out at number 3, and you know what? I'm begging WWE to go into a studio and develop some new entrance music, especially for a match like this, because I kid you not, more than half of the roster came out, and I didn't even know who it was until I saw them. It's amazing how much pro wrestling has evolved, only to have lost a few of the little things along the way. Kelly comes out next and executes probably the dumbest move of the show by positioning herself on the apron and applying a head scissor to Sasha from an upside down position, so basically like Tajiri's tarantula hold, which Sasha quite easily breaks. and then proceeds to kick Kelly right out of contention. Aaliyah is out next, followed by Liv Morgan, who is the first appointed the WrestleMania sign this year. I hate to say it, but I would honestly be shocked if she even has a match at the event, much less a title match. Queen Zelina is out next, and as Tamina places Sasha on the apron, Zelina gets a running start and boots Sasha out of the match, which was the biggest elimination thus far. Bianca Belair is out, and then Dana Brooke, followed by the returning Michelle McCool. Michelle tries to eliminate Dana, but Reggie catches her for a less than unique save spot, only for Dana to be eliminated by Michelle a few seconds later after a massive boot to the face in midair. Sonya Deville comes out next, but instead of entering the ring, she joins the commentary team, explaining that when she wears the jacket, she's an official, but when she takes it off, she's a competitor. Okay? Natalya is out next, and as Tamina has Bianca up in the Firewoman's carry, Natty tries to dump both of them out, but Bianca holds on, and it's only Tamina who is eliminated. So my apologies to the one person that had Tamina in their office pool. Cameron is out next, and I know you're probably wondering who the hell that is, but remember the Funkadactyls? Probably not. But they were a tag team of dancers accompanying Brodus Clay, and the announcers pointed out that Cameron is the former teammate of Naomi, which didn't sit well with Sonya. But I assumed it was the only reason Cameron was invited to appear. She must have been devastated when she realized that she couldn't even share the ring with her hero Melina. For those who remember Cameron's stint in Tough Enough several years ago, she made Steve Austin cringe by listing Melina versus Alicia Fox as her all-time favorite match. Sonya ends up attacking Cameron from behind just to stick it to Naomi and quickly eliminates her. And then to the surprise of no one, Naomi is out next and first helps Cameron up, but then proceeds to brawl with Sonya and eliminates her after a head kick off the apron. Carmella is out next, and instead of going directly to the ring, she also walks to the announce desk and starts flirting with her boy toy Corey Graves. Rhea Ripley is next out of the gate and goes right after Carmella at ringside, dumping out both her and her tag team partner Queen Zelina, so the women's tag champs are both out if anyone's keeping score. Most of you probably don't even remember who the champions are, and I can't say I blame you one bit. Charlotte Flair is out next and is a current champion, so if she wins, she gets to choose her own opponent in Mania, because that makes sense, right? Charlotte quickly eliminates Aaliyah and then tries to eliminate Naomi, but Naomi hooks her feet to the bottom rope for the save. It wasn't her most creative Rumble save, but certainly more creative than last year when she just landed on her back with both feet up in the air. In any case, Sonya comes back and pulls Naomi out of the ring for her elimination, so that feud, I guess, is continuing. Great. Ivory comes out next, but to the Right to Censor theme music, dressed as Lilith Crane from Cheers. She cuts a promo, and it sounded like she forgot what she was supposed to say. She basically called everyone in the ring a lost little girl, and then she's almost instantly dumped out by Rhea. Brie Bella enters the fray next, so the two people chanting one more match at last year's Mania must be happy. In another massive surprise of the night, Mickie James comes out to her Impact theme song, Hardcore Country, and also wearing the Impact Knockouts title, and the announcers even made mention of Impact, which I didn't think would ever happen on WWE programming. Mickie renews her rivalry with Michelle McCool, and thankfully the announcers didn't reference that terrible Piggy James angle from all those years ago. She ends up head-scissoring Michelle out of the match. Alicia Fox is out next, followed by Nikki ASH, and Rhea waits for Nikki in the ring, only to have the almost superhero attack her from behind. Some pretty dumb baby faces tonight. Summer Rae is out next and is almost immediately dumped out by Natalya. She's followed by Nikki Bella, and there's a bit of a reunion between the Bella twins and Alicia Fox, the former Team Bella, which is short-lived as Fox is double-crossed and eliminated by the twins. Sarah Logan, to my surprise, comes out next because I thought she was one of the ones released last year. She has a reunion with her former tag team partner in the Riot Squad, Liv Morgan, only for the Bellas to quickly eliminate them both. Lita is out next to a massive pop, and she eliminates Mickie James after an implant DDT. Lita then squares off with Charlotte as Mighty Molly enters the fray, and Molly is immediately blindsided on the outside by Nikki ASH. I really like this spot as you have the superhero against the supervillain, or almost superhero. Such great attention to detail here. ASH dumps out Molly, and then in the biggest surprise of the night, Ronda Rousey makes her triumphant return to the WWE. She quickly disposes of Nikki ASH. The Bellas try double teaming Rousey, who does a good job of fighting them off, and then Brie double crosses and eliminates her own sister Nikki. Shotzi comes out next as Rousey eliminates Brie. Out last at the number 30 spot is Shayna Baszler, who has a bit of a moment with her best friend Rousey. I thought at this point they might try to clean house together, but they kind of just did their own thing. Rousey dumps out Shotzi and then tries to eliminate Natty. She positions Natalya on the apron, but Bianca, who set the record this year as the longest lasting thus far, shoves Ronda out of the way to eliminate Natalya herself. Natty for some reason sneaks back in to attack Rousey, only for Rousey to just dump her out again. That was kind of bizarre. As Lita attempts a moonsault on Rhea, Charlotte knocks Lita out of the match, and then as Rhea is momentarily distracted by Rousey, Charlotte eliminates her as well. Rhea just can't catch a break against Charlotte, can she? As Bianca attempts the KOD on Shayna, Charlotte grabs her and eliminates them both, so it's now down to Charlotte and Ronda, which doesn't last long, as Charlotte goes for a boot in the corner, only for Rousey to catch her and toss her over. So one half of the women's main event for WrestleMania is set. It'll be Ronda Rousey challenging either Becky Lynch or Charlotte Flair, assuming that those two are still going to be champions by then. I gotta say, I'm okay with either one-on-one match, so long as it doesn't become another triple threat, which I honestly fear that it might be. What was really surprising about last night's Rumble, the Women's Rumble? Where was Xia Li? And also, there was no NXT talent, which was also truly bizarre. And I think people were also expecting Bayley or Asuka to show up. There was no Little Miss Bliss, which was also kind of surprising. I think those might have been the most genuine surprises. This leads right into the next match. It's for the Raw Women's Championship with Becky Lynch defending against her Challenger of the Month, Doudrop, the former Piper Niven. These two had a decent match, but it just took a while to get going, and they were in a tough spot, having to follow the huge news of Rousey's return and eventual Rumble win. The one thing I'm kind of happy about is that the final participant in the ring with Ronda in the Women's Rumble was Charlotte Flair, so at least it doesn't telegraph that Becky is winning this match, though I'm sure we all still knew she would be. But my point is that you've created a second road to WrestleMania for Rousey, and she has either champion to opt for. So her versus Becky was not set in stone. I don't know if they did that intentionally, but regardless, it was very effective. There's a neat spot in the match where Becky applies to disarm her, and as Doudrop attempts to power out, Becky transitions into a cross armbreaker, or Juji Gatami for those MMA fans out there. She also drops repeated legs across Doudrop's face while in the move as a nice added touch, but Doudrop ends up powering up anyway and into a powerbomb for a near fall. Doudrop blocks the manhandle slam and counters into a power slam for another 2 count. The finish was pretty cool as well and told a great story of Becky going the extra mile to put Doudrop away with a manhandle slam off the middle rope. Up next was the WWE Championship match between Brock Lesnar and Bobby Lashley. I have to say that I found this match incredibly underwhelming and completely overbooked and predictable. For a match this highly anticipated, I kind of expected more out of it. But I don't think the finish did either of these guys any favors, and honestly, I'm kind of disappointed that we never got to see any back and forth promos between Paul Heyman and MVP. I was impressed that the match wasn't booked like a typical Brock Lesnar match where it was just suplex after suplex. I mean, it did eventually get there, but at least there was a feeling out process in the early going. And I think this is the first time since Brock returned from the UFC that he's ever locked up with an opponent. It may also be the first time that I've ever seen Bobby Lashley execute a German suplex as a sort of receipt to Brock's multiple suplexes throughout the match. And Lashley, as great an athlete as he is, needs to watch his landings on some of these because they look brutal. Lashley hit a couple of spears in the ring midway through the match and then attempted a third on the outside but ended up crashing through the barricade as Brock sidestepped him. Back in the ring, Lesnar attempted an F5 but Lashley slipped out and applied the Hurt Lock. Brock did a great job of selling here and broke the move by backing Lashley into the turnbuckle, but the ref got caught in the middle and then Brock finally hit the F5 on Lashley but took the ref completely out with the move as well. This, of course, brought out Roman Reigns, surprise, surprise, who delivered a massive spear to Brock and then started staring down Heyman, who ended up passing Reigns the WWE title for him to attack Brock with, but it looked like Heyman did that sort of reluctantly, so I'm still confused as to where this is going. Lashley then basically rolled over and got the easy pin on Brock to claim the title. And then, of course, Heyman ended up leaving with Reigns after the match. This was a highly predictable outcome in my opinion with very uncreative finish. Look, we know the direction for Mania is Roman versus Brock. I can't say I'm crazy about the match, but sometimes it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. And this was just a booking catastrophe in my opinion. It could have been so much better. I mean, I didn't have any interest in this match to begin with, but after this and the main event, I think I have even less interest. Hopefully they can win me back in the next few months, but that's not going to be easy. The next match was the one I was least looking forward to. It was my bathroom break of the night, but unfortunately lasted much longer than that. Actually, before then, they did mention that Ronda Rousey will be on Raw tomorrow night. It'll be interesting to see what they do with her and Becky. But the mixed tag match was next at the Royal Rumble. It was Edge and Beth Phoenix against The Miz and Maurice. I haven't been impressed by this feud at all. The matches have been okay, but why should anybody care about any of this is my issue. I mean, the heel already lost and got his comeuppance at the last event. Shouldn't that have been the end of the story? Why they felt that this feud needed to continue is beyond me. About halfway into the match, Beth starts attacking Miz in the corner, and then Maurice sneaks up behind her and whacks her again with the loaded purse to the back. In an incredible feat of strength, Beth actually lifts Miz up for a powerbomb, which looked very impressive. The finish comes after Miz and Mrs. attempt a double-team skull-crushing finale on Edge, but Beth thwarts their efforts, and her and Edge hit Miz with a double spear, and then they hit dual glam slams on the It couple, and Edge pins Miz to claim the victory for his team. Good, can they just end this already? I don't think we ever need to see these four in a ring together again. Closing out the show is the Men's Rumble, and I have to be honest, I found this match very underwhelming, and I'll get to that, but considering the outcome of the women's match, I'm shocked that that wasn't the final match on the card. AJ Styles starts as number 1 and is joined in the ring by the number 2 entrant Shinsuke Nakamura, who's the Intercontinental Champion, although you probably wouldn't know it based on his lack of title defenses since winning the championship. These two had a lackluster feud in 2018, but they're both really good in-ring performers, so they had a decent couple of minutes here before being joined by the number 3 entrant Austin Theory, who was out to prove himself to Mr. McMahon. I really just hate everything about those vignettes with him and Vince. That's another thing that needs to end. Robert Roode is out at number 4 and has a brief stare down with AJ as the fans begin a TNA chant. That's gotta be a first, and speaking of firsts, Roode is the first elimination at the hands of AJ, so that nostalgia pop didn't last too long. Ridge Holland is out next, and shortly afterwards, AJ tosses out Nakamura. Montez Ford comes out next, followed by the United States champion Damian Priest, Sami Zayn, and then Johnny Knoxville, who is accompanied by other cast members of Jackass Forever. In fact, Wee Man actually took an F5 this weekend from Brock Lesnar in a hotel, apparently. Knoxville had a weird-looking outfit on. It's a costume that someone who has never seen a wrestling show in their life would probably wear if asked to dress like a wrestler. He looked like a combination of Phil Collins from the Two Hearts video and the late Andy Kaufman. Knoxville immediately takes down Zayn, but then all the other wrestlers team up on him. AJ knocks him down, and then Montez hits a massive frog splash. Holland positions Knoxville on the apron, only for Zayn to sneak in and get the elimination with the haluva kick. Zayn's celebration ends up costing him, though, as he's quickly dumped out by AJ. Angelo Dawkins is out next, followed by Omos, who dominates everybody. Omos quickly eliminates both Street Profits consecutively. Ricochet is out next, and then Chad Gable, who tries to direct traffic and get everyone to work together to take out Omos. But Priest is the only one to attack, another dumb babyface who is quickly deposited to the outside by Omos. Dominic Mysterio's out next, and then everybody in the ring gangs up to eliminate Omos in the classic Andre the Giant spot. Happy Corbin comes out next and tosses out Ricochet. Dolph Ziggler is the next one out, as Dominic is also eliminated by Corbin. Austin Theory catches a Pele on the apron and is eliminated by AJ. Sheamus comes out next, only to have his tag team partner Ridge Holland tossed out right at his feet by AJ. Rick Boogs is next out of the gate, and Pat McAfee was insistent that the crowd wasn't booing him but simply chanting his name, though I have my doubts about that. Boogs presses Gable with one hand and eliminates him as Madcap Moss comes out next. With an assist from Corbin, Moss eliminates AJ in a shocker. Riddle comes out next as Corbin dumps Boogs out. Drew McIntyre makes his triumphant return as the next entrant. There was a funny spot here as Corbin was whipping people into Drew as he entered, but it didn't work as Drew ended up eliminating both Moss and Corbin, and then proceeded to attack them both on the outside with steel steps. Kevin Owens comes out next and starts brawling with McIntyre on the floor. Back in the ring, Owens was trying to stomp on Riddle's bare feet, which looked pretty funny. Rey Mysterio is the next entrant, followed by Kofi Kingston. In a very heartbreaking turn of events, Kofi ends up botching his elimination save spot as he's thrown from the apron by Owens, and it looked like he was supposed to land with his feet connected to the security wall, but he accidentally hit the floor, and unfortunately they showed from the replay that Kofi was in fact eliminated, but I'm sure it wasn't supposed to go down that way. I feel bad for the guy, but it was bound to happen at some point. I just hope he isn't punished for this. Well, come to think of it, really, how much worse can it get for him? Otis is out next, followed by Big E, and then in the first genuine surprise of the Men's Rumble, which up until this point had been very lackluster, it's the surprise entrance of Bad Bunny. Bad Bunny actually ends up hitting a destroyer on Riddle and then eliminates Sheamus, who misses a brogue kick and his own momentum takes him to the floor, as Bad Bunny holds the ropes down. Bunny also tosses out Ziggler and then tries to double-cross Mysterio, who he had been working with, but it doesn't work. And then, of all people, Shane McMahon enters the Royal Rumble. I mean, who needs Finn Balor or Cesaro when you have Shane McMahon? I was pretty fed up at this point and just wanted to see this thing end. As Shane makes his entrance, Mysterio is tossed out by Otis, and Owens tries to eliminate Shane right off the bat, but Shane reverses and dumps Owens out. So I guess Shane is a face now? Who cares? Randy Orton comes out next to a massive pop in his hometown and with Riddle eliminates Big E, whose main event dreams are quickly slipping away with each passing day. Well, I guess it was good while it lasted. And then at number 30, it's the guy that everyone knew was coming. Yes, it was Brock Lesnar. You know, part of the enjoyment of the Royal Rumble match is the element of surprise. And I have to say that it isn't really a surprise when something happens that you know is going to happen. That's actually the opposite of a surprise. Brock quickly eliminates Orton, and then tosses out Bad Bunny, followed by Riddle, and finally Shane McMahon, who makes the final 3! My God, what is with this company? The only interesting development was that the final 2 participants ended up being Brock and the guy who beat him for the WWE title, Drew McIntyre. Drew talks some trash and goes for the Claymore but misses, allowing Brock to scoop him up and F5 him right over the top rope. So that was the Royal Rumble. I'd call it a thumbs in the middle show. There was some questionable booking, but other parts of the event were very enjoyable. I just don't understand why they didn't put the women's match on last. Even if Brock needed a breather, they could have just changed around the order of matches so it still would have made sense for him to win. But I guess the main question coming out of this show is where do they go from here? What does the roadmap look like to get to WrestleMania? Now originally I had picked Gable Steveson to win the Men's Rumble, thinking that it would be interesting if he had to make the choice between Brock and Roman, even if Roman and Brock would just end up facing each other. Obviously that didn't happen, and I don't even know if Steveson is ready yet, but you have at least one match of the Big Four set in stone, and that is Brock versus Roman for the Universal Championship. I'm not sure how Heyman will come into play, but it will be interesting to see where they go with it moving forward. On the women's side, Ronda Rousey versus Becky Lynch is the money match, and I think that should be the ultimate destination they arrive at. So what do they do with Charlotte? They had a pretty interesting spot in the Women's Rumble match where Rhea Ripley and Bianca Belair were both trying to eliminate Charlotte like they did at the previous year's Rumble. So I think if they were going to do a triple threat, that would be the match to have, so Charlotte can once again lose the title without being pinned, which we all know she likes to do. I would prefer a one-on-one match though, and if that's the case, I think Bianca would be the one. My only question is how do they get there with Bianca being on Raw? I guess they could do something where Bianca's contract expires or she works something out with Pierce or Sonya to be on SmackDown. Who knows, but that's the match I would book. The WWE title situation is an interesting one because Lashley didn't come out looking particularly strong in that match, and he needs a strong build from now until Mania. They seem to have positioned AJ pretty strong in the men's match, so that might be an option to consider. But then they also positioned Rollins as a babyface now. I'm not sure if Lashley versus either one of those guys does anything for me as a potential main event, but it's all in the booking. Edge is another top guy on Raw, and now that his feud with Miz has hopefully wrapped up, what's next for him? They did kind of tease something with Kevin Owens a couple weeks ago. That's a fresh match as well, and one that I wouldn't mind seeing. Then you also have potential tag team breakups to consider. They've teased ascension between RK Bro and the Mysterios, but I hope only one team breaks up by Mania, and my money is on the Mysterios, as I think RK Bro is still a hot act. Anything can happen between now and WrestleMania, but hopefully we have a clear idea of the top matches by this time next month. For now, just sit back and enjoy the latest edition of the Personality Profile. This week's profile was submitted by Kyle Wilson. Favorite band or musician? Soundgarden, he says. Great choice. Biggest thrill in life? Going to Star Wars Galaxy's Edge for the first time. Person you would most like to meet? Mark Hamill. I take it, Kyle, that you're a Star Wars fan. Favorite sport besides wrestling? College football, he says. Favorite athlete? Joe Burrow. Favorite TV show? Batman the Animated Series. Another one on my list as well. Hobbies? Sports, video games, movies, and TV shows. Favorite fast food? I never know how to pronounce this, but Chick-fil-A, he says. Favorite video game? Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. Favorite cartoon character? He-Man. Talk about a throwback. Favorite actor? Denzel Washington. I'm still waiting to see the new Macbeth movie myself. Looks great. Favorite actress? Helena Bonham Carter. And I brought this up on my podcast before, Kyle, so maybe you agree with me, maybe not, but I really think this new Dakota Kai character reminds me so much of Helena. Favorite food? Burgers. Best advice ever received? You will fail 100% of the things you don't try. Some solid advice there. Secret talent? None. Well, I guess it wouldn't be a secret, as most people have said, if you disclose, so. Favorite movie? Return of the Jedi. By far the best in the series, without a doubt. So that concludes another week. Tune in next week as I will discuss all the major happenings coming out of the Royal Rumble and any other major news. I'm also expecting to have more interview guests in the coming week, so stay tuned for those as well. For now, it's ABC.